Okay, we're ready to install the batteries back into the module. One of the things you want to make sure that this surface is clean. We clean it with alcohol. This surface is already cleaned, been taken care of already. It's important to make the battery stick. So at this point here, we just got to put our batteries back in, remove the tape. Okay, and remember the terminals are always on the taller side of the battery, so they always go like this, and most generally the writing faces up, but on this particular battery the positive side is at the front of the box. So we basically want to get this battery centered the best we can between there, which is right about there. We want to press down on that, make sure it's good and solid. Okay, and we take our plate. There's no tape on here. We do have the tape here, and what I do is I put it up against this back block without touching the battery, and once it's on there and I have it lined up, I just push down on it and it sits right there nice. That tape holds it until you get the screws. I set our clutch at 7 on these. Depending on what drill you use, that may be different, but it doesn't have to be overly tight. I usually put the top in first. Then I put the bottom in. Once the clutch engages, I stop. There's one battery. Slide this over a little bit. Take the tape off of our second battery. So your piece of that fell in there. Okay, same thing here, except the positive tab on this side goes to the back of the box, but the tabs are at the top of the upper part of the battery. The writing is facing up. So I basically start by sliding this in, not allowing the tape to adhere to the box until I get beyond this 6LR plug. Then once it's down, I kind of move it over to where I need it. Now it'll grab a little bit because I set it on the bottom of the box, but you can pick it up and get it centered. You just use very light pressure when you set it down. When you have it in the correct position as it is, just apply some generous weight to it. Press on it, get that tape to sit. We take our plate again, make sure that these wires are out of the way. Go up against the back stop here. Without touching the battery, and if you grab it with your fingers here on this side and this side, that allows you to line it up, and just bring it down until the plate sits there. Press on a little bit, and then that's lined up. Now we can take and put our top screws in. There's one. There's 2. There's 3. I misplaced a screw, so I'll get a new one. Probably fell onto the floor. Be careful that none fall into the box. I'm sure that one will turn up. It's probably under the module or somewhere close by. Okay, the next thing we want to do is we want to put our black wire back on. Sometimes it's a good idea to re-tin this wire, or just put a little solder on the tip of your gun and then just run it back and forth. Just make sure you have enough solder on your tip so that you can solder it back in place. Solder this one here. Just like that. Give it a tug. Make sure it's on there in good shape. I like to go under these wires here instead of over the top. And then I bend it so that I can hold the whole group of wires, and I hold it and get it in the shape that I want so that it's going to be easy to just push that right on there once I get some solder on it. So we'll solder this wire back. Be careful not to hit any of the other wires. Like so. It's good and tight. I'll put this wire back down at the bottom. Next, we're going to attach the fuse up front here. This just goes back into the positive terminal. You heat up the terminal. Try to do this so that you can see. Heat up the terminal and then just pass the fuse through. Hold it square and level. Let it go. And the last one we're going to do is our ground side over here. This one's a little more tricky because I've got some zip ties holding it there, so there's not a lot of room to work with, but you can hold on to it with your pliers. Okay, get that soldered on just like that. Everything's on in good shape. Batteries are screwed down. Nothing's moving. We will take our panel, and remember we did rotate this around, so the way this goes is like this. Okay. We can hook up our XLR plug back onto the radio board, and again our radio. You want to make sure that this whip comes out and around like this, and if you look at it you can see that this naturally wants to sit in this position, and I try to make all the modules that way so it's easier to put that on. So it's easier to set it on the top, and I hold it with one finger and then two fingers, and when you get two fingers on there it just pops right on, and you can tell because if you wiggle it like this it just goes back and forth nice like that, so that when you do close this lid you can see that wire will just lay right there. It doesn't get in the way of anything. So that basically is how we change the batteries in the FM45 digital 45 wireless module. What we will do when we finish it up is you put your lid back on and you will insert the rest of your screws, and of course test to make sure it's still working. If it didn't, there was an error probably somewhere hooking the battery up or something, but should be fine.